about this. Fully adaptive. What? Honestly, this game wasn't even bad. What is it again? Augment swap. Augment swap. Oh great, this guy's already a crew. I have to stake stars on board. It's over for me. Alright, fuck it, remover? You have to hit. You can't miss, please.
I'm okay.
Just FF. Is anyone gonna help me? Anyone? Bro, aren't I committed to Kaisa, man? What the fuck else am I gonna play from Stars Are Born? Yeah, whatever. It's all good. Honestly, Solar Breath is not even bad. It's good early game tempo. It's actually fine. Do not worry, guys. Do not worry. It's fine. It's all good in Applewood. Ah, fuck it. I'm going for Cannon 3. Fuck it, random Cannon 3. Deal or no deal. Low-key, Cannon 3 is not even bad. Deal. Yeah, deal, then don't care. Yeah, fucking level as well. 2 cannons. Yup. The cut for Paris is crazy. 768 straight to 200 after 4 games. Huh? So you're telling me bro, the entire venue just goes on vacation instantly. Okay. You load it,
back and how we're playing it. What's
vacation.
changing on the running back landscape?
I did all this research into league-wide trends early in the offseason. I never got around to turning it into an article, but if you are listening to our podcast or watching us on YouTube here, you are going to get some of those goods. So, yeah, the rushing stuff is interesting. League-wide rushing rate has been on the rise. And last year, teams as a whole, league-wide, ran 43.4% of the time. That was the highest rate in 9 years. On top of that, running back efficiency was also up last year, both in terms of yards per carry, touchdown rate, receiving stuff across the board, yards per catch rate, all that stuff was up the board for running back efficiency. So as a result, top 50 running backs last year scored the most PPR points they've scored as a group since 2019. And if you look at where that increase came, it came in RBs 2 through 28. So in other words, RBs 2 through 28 last year, that entire group scored more points last year than it had averaged over the previous 5 years. On the other hand, RBs 29 through 50 all scored fewer points than they had on average. So running backs as a whole scored more points, but that increase came at the top, right? Like the RB1s, the RB2s into RB3 territory. I think some of that had to do with the fact that the position just stayed healthier last year than usual. We had the big seasons out of Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry, these guys on the older side, but they stayed healthy and produced. I think the injury rate was just lower at the position. But I do think there's something to maybe the position getting a bit more condensed than it has been, where we have, more of these higher end running backs accounting for more of the total production at the position.
Yeah, we saw teams invest in those lead running backs, Derrick Henry to the Ravens, Philly picking up Saquon Barkley. We saw, more money pumped into older running backs than we had seen in recent years. And it makes sense if teams are paying those guys to give them the ball more. And if they're staying healthy, then it's going to leave less available for, their backups, the team's third running backs, to do that scoring. So I think all of that put together makes sense for why scoring went that way. Is that changing how you're approaching running back this season?
A little bit. I think I'm more willing to take those high-end guys. My general running back plan this season is I like to have one running back through the first 4 rounds with no more than 2. And then I do like to have my second running back through round 6. We can get into some of these targets, but to me, round 6 is kind of the cutoff for like guys that I'm comfortable likely being every week starters this season. To me, I think once you get into round 7 this year, you're talking more like pure committee members that are going to be potentially shaky week-to-week starters, and then like handcuff types. So I think that again speaks to this league-wide trend we've seen where the points are kind of getting pushed up more towards the top. And I want to make sure I get, again, at least 2 of those, like, say top 28 type running backs.
Yeah, running back versus wide receiver early in my draft really depends on the specific format and the specific players who reach me. So, do I start two wideouts versus three? PPR, half PPR, non PPR, any other specs that affect the scoring and affect how I'm going to want to build my lineup every week. That's going to impact whether I'm taking running back, wide receiver at a specific spot. There are running backs that I like in round one: Bijan Robinson, Saquon Barkley, Christian McCaffrey, Ashton Genty. Barkley is not generally a guy that I'm taking at cost because I'm taking Bijan ahead of him. And obviously they're going, back to back most likely. So really, Robinson, McCaffrey, Genty are the three running backs that I'm looking at in round one. We'll talk about the receivers in a minute, but that's still more wide receivers in round one. So I'm with you. I want to get an early running back. It's generally one in either round one or round two, but I'm not going to force myself to get a running back in one of those two rounds. It ties back into what you're saying, though. We want to get one of those workhorses if that's the way the league is going. If it's relying heavily on these workhorse running backs, we want to go ahead and take advantage of that, unless we want to build in another specific way that goes against that because we're trying to go against the grain for the purpose of going against the grain, but we can talk about that in a minute. I'm also a little bit less attracted to the round two running back, so that can actually play into whether I go running back. Like specifically if I'm looking at McCaffrey versus the wide receivers in the second half of round one, it's easier for me to lean toward McCaffrey there because I know that I don't like the round two running backs as much, and I do like the wide receivers in that round. And even over the next few rounds, I think there are going to be more spots where I like the receivers and like what I can collect at that spot than if I have to do the same thing at running back.
Yeah, agree on all those points. I think too, obviously how you attack running back early on depends on where you're picking, in the draft, right? So I kind of broke it down this way. And again, all these scenarios are going to get you one running back through the first 4 rounds and ideally 2 through the first 6. But so if I'm picking early in round 1, I'm planning on either taking Bijan in round 1 or some combination of Jonathan Taylor and Chase Brown in rounds 2 and 3. I think you want to come out of the first 3 rounds with at least one of those guys, whether it's Bijan in round 1, probably JT in round 2. At this point, Chase Brown, you probably got to take him in round 2 to make sure you get him. He doesn't often get to round 3, but he's a great target in round 3 if he gets there. So that's kind of the early picks in round 1. If I'm picking in the middle, I'm kind of prioritizing Christian McCaffrey at this point, assuming like Jamar Chase, Bijan, Saquon, and CeeDee Lamb are off the board. Like it's kind of CMC for me. Jonathan Taylor is an option in round 2 if you're picking in the middle. And then for me, kind of the next spot to target a running back from the middle of the draft is Kenneth Walker or James Conner in round 4. So that's kind of how you can get to 1 or 2 running backs from the middle. And then picking late in round 1, like you said, Matt, Devon Achane and I think Ashton Genty kind of at the 1-2 turn are good picks. And then Alvin Kamara and Ken Walker at the 3-4. So I think mixing in, 1 or 2 of those guys at the turn kind of sets you up in a good spot at running back.
Yeah, I like all those guys, and there are quality options available at running back in round 3, 4, 5, but it gets a bit more sparse where if a specific guy doesn't get to you, then it's like, I don't really want to reach for the next running back on my list. I'd rather take wide receiver here. So that's where you kind of go back to, should I take a running back in this spot so that I don't feel like I need to take one here, or so that I'm not weak later and have to to collect guys. That said, if you do start wide receiver heavy and then you get into that range, I would still avoid reaching for a running back that you don't like just because you feel like you need one. I'm okay with a roster that starts out with like a lethal combo of wide receivers and Jalen Hurts through 3 or 4 rounds, and then has starters like Isaiah Pacheco, Jalen Warren, Tyrone Tracy at running back. Obviously, those are not your ideal running back combos, but the trade-off for that is that you have this potentially high-level wide receiver core, stud quarterback, and then you can kind of piece together running back. And I think if you do get into that range, that's when you want to make sure to just spend several consecutive picks on running backs. Don't say, oh, I got Isaiah Pacheco and I love him this year. He's definitely going to pay off. Take him, take Jalen Warren, take Tyrone Tracy, take Quinshon Judkins now that he's back, grab some Jacksonville running backs. Just, get these guys that are in unclear situations that could work out for you. And then all you really need to do is bet on 2 to 3 of them being usable week to week.
Yeah, and to me, that's like the later round strategy at running back, regardless. I think running back is the position you want to be taking your bench upside shots on, because we know that's a position where for a lot of these guys, it just takes one injury and all of a sudden they're producing almost to the level, if not at the level the starter was ahead of them. So, yeah, definitely want to stash these guys. I think, again, I said round 6 is kind of the last spot to get like a safe weekly starter. And I generally want to have 2 running backs by the end of round 6. Those round 6 guys to me are Isaiah Pacheco. He's been a favorite of ours all offseason, still is. He caught a ball in the Chiefs' second preseason game and looked healthier on that.